like you said, I've been dancing for 8 years. I've heard lots of different stories. But the fact that we were dancing two men is like, it's none of their business really.
What does that have to
Um,
do with them? What is a safer and more inclusive space under Sheffield Bachata Collective?
Teachers in general have responsibility to create an environment where people are comfortable to go and report any problems they have. One of them was around an incident that happened in a class, and yeah, they've dealt with it relatively transparently. And I think the other important thing about dealing with things in a transparent way is that sometimes people are just ignorant and they don't mean anything bad, they just don't know any better.
Joining me today, we have Tudor Sirbu. Tudor has been part of the bachata scene for over 8 years now, starting in Sheffield and Nottingham, and has spent time training both in the UK and internationally with people who have inspired him through their perspective on dancing or their impact on their dance community. He is passionate about making social dancing more inclusive and creating safer spaces for everyone. He is also the founder of Sheffield Bachata Collective. Welcome to Empowered Dancer, Tudor.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to meet you.
It's wonderful to meet you as well. So, Tudor, how did the bachata journey start for you?
It was kind of unexpected and random, if I'm completely honest. So I moved to the UK 13 years ago, and I think within my first year of uni at Sheffield Uni, I went to a salsa class, and it was massive. There was so many people. It was a beginner's class, but it just felt so overwhelming. I was like, this is not for me. And so I was like, never again. I tried it, not for me, never again. And then a few years later, I went down to Cambridge to celebrate one of my best friend's birthday. And back then, she used to be a salsa teacher in Cambridge. So after her birthday, she had to go and teach. And she was like, well, you can either stay home on your own, or you can come and try the beginner's class and see how you find it. So I was like, okay, let's try it. So I went to her salsa class, beginner class, and I really loved it. I think the format was a bit different, more suited to my personality because I'm a bit of an introvert. So it was a smaller group, people were very friendly. So I really, really enjoyed it. So when I came back to Sheffield, I told one of my best friends from Sheffield about it, and she was like, well, I've just done some bachata while I was in El Salvador. At that point, I had no idea what bachata was. We ended up going to Sol and Laura's classes. They're some of the OG bachata teachers in the UK. So yeah, I started with them basically, and I don't know, it just clicked. Yeah, I've just been going regularly since basically.
I love that. One false start at the second time, it had you.
Yeah, yeah. One of my good friends has met someone 3, 4 years ago, and they've tried to get them to come into dancing.
Hmm.
He's tried tango and salsa like 3, 4 times, and he doesn't like it. And what he said kind of stuck with me is that he'll try most things in life 3 times, because first time maybe you're having a bad day or maybe it's the wrong environment for you, and then if you
Mm.
give it 3, 4 times and it just doesn't work for you, then yeah, at least you've tried it and you've given it a proper shot, and it's not, yeah, one
That's a,
time when you try something one time it might not work out. So I
yeah,
think
it's a
it
very
can be like that.
well-rounded perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
For me, it kind of just happened as a fluke, but yeah.
Nice. And now you have started the Sheffield Bachata Collective. What inspired you to start something in Sheffield?
Yeah, so it's still very much in its infancy. It started as a bit of an experiment, a social media experiment of trying to see if there's any interest for a new night, because there are some options at the moment for bachata in Sheffield. It's still growing bachata in Sheffield. It historically Sheffield has been more of a salsa scene than a bachata scene,
Mm.
but it has grown quite a bit in the last couple of years. So yeah, I started as an experiment to basically see if people identify with some of the things I believe in terms of dancing, because I don't want to start just another night, another bachata class, another bachata event. Um, and I wanted it to be something slightly different. And it's kind of inspired, in all honesty, by the role rotation movement that Felipe and Tiago have started, which have kind of improved the way I look at dancing and kind of have opened a different world to me in terms of
Mm.
dancing, because I
Yeah,
do both roles and I have been doing both roles for quite a while now.
that's really cool. And I can see that difference when you say you wanted to start something that aligns with you and what you believe in. I mean, you're doing that right from the beginning by you're already sharing your values and expectations with people.
Yeah, I think setting expectations is very important. So the company I currently work for is a startup, and the the co-founders I think have done a fantastic job at the beginning of setting the right expectations for people.
Mhm.
So when I first started, the it was a job, but it also felt like a community, and everyone was very bought into the mission of the company. So that kind of also inspired me to have a similar approach for this, because I think it's really important for people to drive the change. Because if it's just you, you're not going to be able to do it on your own.
No.
And yeah, the more people are on board and believe in what you believe in, the more likely that it is that you're going to see a change in well, in this case, in dancing, in the
Mm,
dancing
very
community.
much, very much so. So you've gone with the values of inclusivity, respect, and growth.
Yeah.
What brought you to those three as your core ones?
It was quite hard to pick just three because you could go on and on, obviously, but um, they're based on personal experience, but also on stories I've heard from friends.
Mm,
So, like you said, I've been dancing for 8 years. I've heard lots of different stories. Um, Personally, I've suffered from like inclusivity problems for a long time until more recently, because I started following when it wasn't that popular, and I would go to a social, and yeah, people were best case scenario, people would just look weirdly, but I've had other incidents as well happening where I was dancing with one of my male friends, and two people randomly came and just pulled us apart in the middle of the dance floor, which was quite shocking because I was like, what is going on?
my
Uh,
goodness, yeah.
yeah, and I think I was so surprised that I didn't necessarily deal with the situation in the best way, because I think I should have been calm and try to educate the people that did that, that is now okay, and that what what the fact that we were dancing to men isn't like, it's none of their business really.
What does that have to
um
do with them?
yeah, like it doesn't impact them in any way, but instead I chose to leave and not go to that event for a while.
Mm,
um yeah, which is not a good outcome for myself or for the community, I don't think. So yeah, things have changed a bit in terms of inclusivity, but there's still people that sometimes reach out and they ask me, oh, how do you deal with this? Or like, how do you deal with people saying no when you ask if they would want to lead you or if they want to do role rotation? So that was really important for me. That I knew from the start I want inclusivity to be one of the values, because I would not want anyone to feel like they can't go
mm,
to the event. Equally, about 2 years ago, someone tried to start an LGBT specific salsa event. And when I was asking why, the reason was because some of the people that were going to that event felt that it was too heteronormative for them to join.
mm.
Um, so yeah, it's just about creating a more diverse environment that basically anyone feels comfortable to come and do whatever role they want and just kind of find their space in dancing. Um,
Okay. And
yeah,
so I hear a couple of organizers say they want their dance space to be safer, they want it to be more inclusive. But then when I attend the event or lesson, I don't see or hear or feel any mention of how that's being put in place. Or I look them up online and I don't find a line that says anything about how they're supporting safer spaces. So, what is a safer and more inclusive space under Sheffield Bachata Collective?
that's a really good question. Yeah, so I believe that representation makes a massive difference. So I'm hoping by me being um, part of the LGBT community, that this would basically set the standard for everyone. But my idea with and my vision with the new event is to have a wider range of teachers coming as well. So because this is not dancing is not my job, I have a regular 9 to 5 job. This is just a passion. I'm hoping to basically use the funds from classes, events, and stuff to bring other teachers, and also to try to bring a wide range of teachers to the event so that people can see representation happening. For example, for me, until Felipe and Tiago started becoming popular, I didn't really have any representation or anyone I could identify with. Now
Yeah.
there's like a whole other world where I feel like, yeah, there's space for LGBT people as well to join. So I'm hoping that with bringing teachers, other teachers or diverse teachers to the events, we'll kind of get more of a diverse community happening.
Yeah, and that's representation is a really good way to demonstrate what you mean by inclusive environment, for sure. I
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. And like again, values and describing to people using the appropriate language, which I think for me are just bare minimums, like using the correct language when it comes to leading and following, and not using man or women, not to make sure that you don't kind of exclude anyone is also like really, really important. But for me, those are things that everyone should be doing, and they're the bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we do have a bit of that where someone can and does say, yeah, I do want everyone to feel welcome at my event, or dancers say, yeah, I want anyone to be able to come to this event. And then it's kind of a pat on the back, I'm inclusive, I've done my job. But that's not really doing anything, I would say. That's choosing to do nothing. There needs to be more than that. It needs to be an active, inclusive environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also, I think, on top of that, I think teachers in general have responsibility to create an environment where people are comfortable to go and report any problems they have. And
100%.
for teachers and organizers to then try to understand what happens fairly and then take action based on that. Because
Yeah.
often I think we all know in social dancing, there's things that happen that should not happen. And
Hmm.
I'm not talking necessarily just inclusivity, but from a safety perspective as well. And they kind of get brushed under the rug.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think what I would want to do well, the vision for this, for Sheffield Bachata Collective is to hopefully empower people to be able to stand up and say, I am not comfortable with what you've said or what you've done, and then either deal with it themselves in a respectful way or come to me so that I can basically manage the situation, because I would never want someone to be in my class and feel uncomfortable because someone else is making them uncomfortable. You hear stories where women start leading and people ask them, are you a man now? You know,
Yes.
I would never want something like that to happen. And
Yeah.
I would like to deal with those kind of situations and educate people that why that is not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. When that happened to me recently, I kind of, I just didn't know how to respond. Like I kind of wanted to laugh it off because that seemed the easiest thing to do. But then I thought, I don't feel good. I feel very uncomfortable. So yeah, working out the toolkit and having that toolkit accessible to me to deal with that, even having it, I still struggled. So it's so important that we kind of just take away this, it's a limiting belief system.
It is, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think with Sheffield Bachata Collective, what I'm also going to try to do is to have a strong new set of beginners that basically will not know any different,
Mm,
and start with the right values and start with the right mindset. I think is really important because again,
that's really cool.
them having new dancers coming into the scene with the right belief system, then obviously we'll have a ripple effect. Hopefully we'll have a ripple effect, and with time, they'll be the norm rather than the odd ones out.
Mm, for sure, yes, because when you start into a dance school, event, lesson, whatever it is, the culture there informs your whole view of the dancing. Everyone's got a first class or first set of classes they go to. And if a teacher is actively inclusive, then you assume that's the norm. If a teacher is very, let's say, heteronormative, you assume that's the norm. If a teacher is very rude, you assume that's the norm. And because it trickles down into the class, but the class members will also behave in that way. They'll take on bits of that. So that is so important. And as you say, to have events where you are actively saying, if anything happens that you don't feel good about, you can report it. That's a good thing to do. And by having values in place, you're now telling someone when they walk in the door what is okay. Therefore, when something that's not okay happens, they can do something about it.
Yeah, that is definitely the dream. So we'll see how it kind of progresses. It's using the correct language and setting the expectations at the beginning. Hopefully will kind of set people on that path of feeling comfortable to raise issues rather than kind of after events or even during the events tell their friends that something bad has happened, and then
Which is
it's
what normally happens at this is
yeah.
the standard norm at the moment.
Yeah, I know people that have stopped dancing because they've been made to feel uncomfortable, and I think that's
Hmm.
just unacceptable.
It is completely unacceptable. Mm.
Yeah.
What will be one of the ways that you will try and keep safer spaces and inclusivity an active part of your lessons?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Again, language I think is really important. Empowering students to also keep the values up. also make sure that I keep the values as well, because obviously I'm human, I may make mistakes. I want them to feel comfortable and come to me and tell me, you've said this and it was not okay because of X and Y and Z. Like I'm still learning a lot of things. I'm not perfect, obviously.
Yeah, you're a human. We all get things wrong
Yeah,
completely.
exactly. Um, yeah, so just trying to just to empower people to communicate more, I think it's is the key, and be more honest with themselves, with each other, with people around them. I think is key for this to hopefully work.
Mm.
Um, and I think just being transparent about anything that happens will also empower people to do that, because if they know that there's been an awkward situation that has happened and there's been a fair resolution to it, um, then they're more likely to bring things to the table if anything happens. Or also in classes as well, like if sometimes it happens in a class that you've touched someone where you shouldn't have, purely by mistake because you were stressed. I know I have done it in the past and I was literally mortified and I've apologized and stuff, but obviously sometimes it just happens, accidents happen. In those situations, to have the ability to communicate with the other person in a transparent way so that they know that you've not done it on purpose and you're not trying to be a creep or like anything like that, and that it's purely a mistake, and then kind of discuss together to figure out how can that be avoided in the future with other people, or how can uh or maybe as a group as well in the class to discuss how situations like that can be avoided.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because it does happen, as you say. Like someone will touch you in a place where they shouldn't have touched you. Acknowledging it then says, this has happened. I didn't mean it to happen. Even that might be as simple as, oops, sorry. But that acknowledgement, that means a lot to people when that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's not just saying sorry. I think sorry, yes, it's a great first step, but I think it's also figuring out how that happened, because
Hmm.
often like maybe you didn't understand the movement correctly or the technique correctly.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Your body was positioned in the wrong place. So there's usually a reason. If you've not done it intentionally, I believe that there is a reason why that happened. And I think
Mm.
finding the reason and working with someone to find it, I think is really important, so that then you know that it's not going to happen again, because your body is like, one thing that often teachers say in classes is not to be right behind someone. You're on the side if you're in the shadow
Hmm.
position in bachata, or even when you're facing each other, again, you're not perfectly aligned. You're
Yeah, you're off
uh,
center. Yeah.
yeah. So those are situations where you could be touching someone inappropriately by mistake. If you
Yes.
understand where you're supposed to be placed, then obviously those things are never going to happen, or
Okay, yeah.
very, very unlikely to happen.
That does, you're right, that takes it to the next level. So would that be something that you could then incorporate into the next lesson, or something that you would try and deal with during that lesson? I mean, you may not have figured that out yet, so don't worry if you haven't.
Yeah, it's something to explore and to see how, I have this approach of trying to deal with situation as I think I don't always do it, I'll admit, because sometimes it's hard, but I think the best thing is to talk about things then and there rather than leaving them, because people forget
Yeah.
details, people forget what happened. It's best to deal with them then and there, and it's not
Hmm.
gonna they're not gonna repeat again. But yeah, ideally, either of those options are better than just pretending that they didn't happen.
Then nothing. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. To go back to what you said about events and acknowledging when there's been an unpleasant situation that's been reported and then how it's dealt with, the amount of, or the level of, what's the word when you tell someone something that's
Back and
happened?
forth, or
No. So if the amount of detail the organizer chooses to share, that's
yeah.
it. That sentence works. I can't swear I can speak English. Um, yeah, the level of detail the organizer chooses to share is is up to the organizer to do. But to take that stance of, well, we will say acknowledge when things have been reported. That's something that I've never seen before. I never heard of before. I
Yeah, and
feel
it needs to
like
be dealt with tactfully. Obviously, you can't say X has done Y.
no,
Obviously,
unless
it
there
can't
was
be
a,
like
a
that.
huge situation that put other people in danger, or
Yes.
certain kind of we're talking then more into violence or assault or worse. To have the vulnerability to say we will acknowledge to our community, so that they know something's happened and they know we've dealt with it. That's that feels hugely empowering just to hear, but also a standard that I would love to see spread from Sheffield Bachata Collective outwards.
Yeah, hopefully. I know that other teachers do it as well, so it's not a
Yeah.
unique, it's not a new thing. So, for example, Tiago and Felipe, they run classes in Madrid, and I did a teacher's course with them not that long ago, and they
Mhm.
gave us some stories from their experience, obviously. And one of them was around an incident that happened in a class, and yeah, they've dealt with it relatively transparently. And I think the other important thing about dealing with things in a transparent way is that sometimes people are just ignorant. They don't mean anything bad. They just don't know any better. And I
Yeah.
think by being open about what happened and how it was resolved and why it is a problem, I'm hoping that other people will be like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, but for the future is another way that I look at it.
Yeah. That's a really good point. It seems like a lot of people, their their negative behavior or their little bits of inappropriate behavior, it does come from a place of ignorance. They don't know any better, or they don't know that it's wrong, or they don't know it's upsetting someone else. So once again, that transparency is enabling them to grow as well, which is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other things that kind of stuck with me from the teacher's course with Felipe and Tiago was that teachers need to be educators as well,
Mm,
which seems super obvious now that it kind of has clicked with me, but
yeah,
you don't see it very often in dancing. And kind of what I mean by educator is this as well, like dancing etiquette,
yeah,
what's safe, what's not safe, be it like from like a touching perspective, but also from like health and safety perspective of like what human bodies can and can't do because people try to bend other people in a very bizarre way where they don't consider that maybe they're not that flexible or they have back injuries or other injuries.
you're completely correct that there are many events where I want to teach bachata. I love bachata. I want to share it, and that person starts teaching, and their motive for teaching is they love bachata and want to share it, and that's great. But there's a whole wider responsibility set that comes with holding an event, with teaching lessons. It's much broader than just the teaching people to do moves, as you said. So it's great to hear teachers taking this on board and wanting and being excited to be a part of that positive growth.
Yeah. And I think this is again having the perspective of role rotation and experiencing this myself sometimes,
Yeah.
it kind of then broadened my horizon to understand how it might feel to be on the other side. Because I'm sure there's been situations where maybe I have been a bit more rough with someone on leading them, or
Mm.
um, yeah, maybe I have made someone feel uncomfortable in any way. I'm not gonna say that I haven't, possibly I have in 8 years. But it's about kind of being more understanding. And I think um, what I want to do from through Sheffield Bachata Collective as well is to teach with a role rotation mindset. So I'm a certified role rotation teacher now. I want to teach with that perspective so that both, whether you want to choose to be a leader or a follower, or do both roles, to understand the movement from both perspectives, so you understand what the boundaries are. I think
Yeah.
that's also really, really important. Sheffield is quite special in some ways because it's there's a lot of students. It's a very student driven city. Throughout the
Cool.
summer, it's pretty dead, um, which is sad sometimes because you make new friends at dancing, or like people come and you see them grow and then they go away because they graduate and they go somewhere else. But it also, the advantage of that is also that if someone comes and starts with the right beliefs, they'll go somewhere else and hopefully help spread the message.
Yeah.
Is the hope as well.
So actually, it's a wonderful thing. Maybe not for the friendships point of view, but in
Yeah,
terms of
absolutely.
positive community growth, pretty cool. I wish every teacher was like you.
I'm just getting started, so let's see how it goes. I've been quite fortunate to have um, the right people around me just by literally by chance, to have people that influence me in a positive way. I think most of the people that I've taught with or people that have been going to classes have been quite open-minded
Hmm.
and have kind of, I don't want to say pushed me, but it kind of has happened through them naturally that I've developed I hope a healthier mindset about dancing.
Yeah.
um,
My brother recently said to me that your vibe attracts your tribe. So I don't know if it was entirely by accident. Maybe that's you connecting with energy that connects with you.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I do believe in energy, so yeah, maybe. maybe. One thing that I do love about dancing is that it does bring a really, really wide range of people that you wouldn't interact with normally.
It really
Because
does.
you tend to live in a bubble normally, like your friends and the people you work with and stuff. But at dancing, one of the beautiful things is that, yeah, you get people from all walks of life, jobs, backgrounds, religions, countries, whatever, you name it. It's
Yeah.
just everyone. And I think that's quite beautiful. And we need that to continue and evolve and yeah, make sure that no one feels excluded.
That's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Tudor, for coming on and talking about the inspiration behind the Sheffield Bachata Collective and the impact that you are going to have on the dance scene with this beautiful new group, this new event.
Thank you for
Not very.
having me. Like it was very, very nice to be invited so soon after I started the page and it's still all very new. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered Dancers podcast. If there's an aspect of the dance scene you would like to hear about, or a particular teacher you would like to hear from, drop me a message and I will try to make it happen. Make sure you subscribe to get every episode as it comes out. Thank you so much for the comments and questions you are already sharing. I really, really appreciate it, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.